3.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Gonzalez, the author of Beloved and the Pepper Tree. And today I'm so happy to bring you our guest, Sheila Delson. It was Sheila's ideas and input about Beloved and the Pepper Tree and how she uses it with her grandchildren that got us so excited about having some online conversations with her. Sheila is the business owner of Virtual Organizing. She is an organizing genius, and she helps people to become organized in both their personal and professional lives. And her service is also available as a certified training program to teach professional organizers how to successfully add virtual organizing to their services. So, Sheila, welcome.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you to explain a little bit about why Beloved and the Pepper Tree captured your attention the way it did.
Yeah, I think what originally struck me when I was obviously reading the book and reviewing it for my grandchildren, for the hopes that this would be a really great book for my grandchildren. What struck me was the connections piece. That's the one word that jumped out at me, was connections. This is all about maintaining and staying connected. The metaphor involved in the connectivity, the ongoing connectiveness of our relationships. In the story, of course, Beloved found out she had to move away from her beloved pepper tree that she played with and played under, and all of her little animal friends and children's imaginations that go on, and how she had developed this love of this spot and this her tree that she talked to all the time. It was her friend, and it was her beloved friend, in fact. And then she learned that she had to move away, and her horror of missing and moving away from her pepper tree. And then came the gift. And that's the metaphor, the gift of take my seeds with you, wherever you go, I'll be with you. And what struck me was the connections. And here I felt so far away from my grandchildren because of the COVID separation, because I couldn't reach or meet them anymore. So suddenly it was the connection, the seeds. How do we do this? Well, of course, we're not going to take physical seeds. That would be silly. But what other kinds of ways could we create and develop seeds that would make those connections? And it occurred to me, oh my goodness, Beloved in the Pepper Tree is a fabulous grandparents connective, like a foundation to be able to connect with their grandchildren and create a commonality in a story of separation and yet connection as well. So I think sometimes as grandparents, it's kind of our role, I think, to be the instigators with our grandchildren to maintain and develop the relationship that we really hope that we can continue with them. I mean, we're not going to be here forever, right? And we want to make sure that they have good memories of us, but not just good memories, but meaningful, connective memories, conversations that make a connection that they can relate to, that we can relate to, and maybe even stronger, more seeds, of course, is the idea that with those connections, we can actually impart wisdom. And of course, in came the wisdom cards. So the connection thing, really, to answer your question, Anne, that was really what popped out and created the brain fire.
One of the things I love about the book is that it's honest in Beloved's emotions around that move, that she doesn't embrace it initially. She's distraught.
Right.
And we all face resistance when we're facing a big change, to varying degrees anyway. But pushback and resistance is usually a part of the process before we get into acceptance. Was there any pushback from your grandkids about you moving away?
Oh my gosh, there was huge resistance. It frightened them, right?
Mhm.
Same thing with Beloved. She was frightened. It frightened her because they didn't understand. They're in New York and I'm moving to Florida. Well, that could be the moon for little children. Um, they were frightened. And then came my way of consoling them is, hey, we're going to get in an airplane. We're going to come and see you 4 times a year. We're going to have, there's FaceTime, there's Zoom. We'll stay connected. Don't worry, we'll see each other. So that was the way I can kind of console them.
Mhm.
And then we had the other hit, the pandemic, and I couldn't keep my promise. And that broke my heart. And it children remember things like that.
Mhm.
So how do I fix it? How can I don't know that we can always fix everything, but what can we do to mitigate and find a way to still maintain that connection? So it was very difficult for them, and I think now that we're sort of using this wonderful metaphoric story with my grandchildren. I really think it's created a lot of healing and creating a sense of confidence that things are going to be okay. And I think that we want to instill that with our children. So reading them the book and keeping the relationship back and forth with them about the book also has created not just the connective relationship, but I think a sense of resolve, and things are going to be okay. Yeah, change has happened, but we're managing. So yeah, the metaphor in the book is so multifaceted. It's just I get excited about it, as you can tell. And actually, I'm telling the kids, I'm explaining to them what we're doing with the book. So I'm not just stringing them along and being manipulative. I'm telling them what it is that we're using the book for and how interesting those pieces lie in. And in doing that, it teaches them how to read deeper into a storyline as well and coming up with their own discovery of what a metaphor is. So yeah, it's very
Really,
multifaceted.
you really talk about the book with them too, versus just reading it. It sounds like you have very rich discussions around the ideas presented in the book.
Actually, it's very true. We do. And that's part of developing that the richness of the conversation, right? Um, it's funny with children, you'll be chatting with them and sometimes they'll come back with thoughts and ideas, and then you'll come back with them, sort of taking them, you want to take them on a little bit of a deeper dive. So it's interesting what I'm learning is sometimes, I want to go deeper and they're not quite ready for it yet. And I got to back off
Mm.
and move along, but it doesn't matter. It's still, those are the seeds. Those are planting those little seeds. So we can come back to it later. What I'm finding is that the conversations, it's not like you go through a conversation and you don't go back to it, you're finished with it. That's not what's happening. It just keeps it's ebbing and flowing, and it thrills me to see, because their little minds are going. And remember, Shasha, when we were talking about Beloved, and she was so worried, they loved the idea that she took a satchel and put all the seeds in the satchel. For some reason or other, that was so exciting to them, filled up the satchel. So we go back and talk about seeds. How many seeds do you think were in there? So that kind of thing brings up more conversation and asking questions. It's cool.
Have there been any surprises in what they've brought to you around Beloved and the Pepper Tree? Any surprising questions or thoughts that they've had about it?
I think the biggest surprises that I've seen is how they will come back to me about another part of the story that I would have, we read it a few times, kind of in my mind, we've read it, but how they will come back and recognize certain pieces, if like for the wisdom cards, and a little question will come up, which the surprise to me is, wow, so how interesting the things that stick in their minds that sometimes even I don't recognize it right away, but it is to them.
Mhm.
And again, it allows that deeper conversation, maybe some correction in some of their thinking. But nothing is. It's all been extremely positive. So yeah, so those are some of the surprises that I do get. And then one of the other things that we've been doing is after we do either the wisdom card or go through another portion of the book, is we get some coloring. They've got crayons, and you know what happens with doodling and coloring? The mind is just sort of more released, and
Mhm.
then the conversations kind of come out. They're doodling, and it's just been an amazing, amazing experience. It was a little rough in the beginning because how are we working this? But the more soft and without a lot of expectation, it just comes alive. So I think those are the surprising pieces to me.
Wonderful. I'm an expressive arts facilitator. So when you talk about engaging your brain using the crayons and the left to right writing,
Right.
and what that does to allowing us to integrate new concepts and open up different areas of our brain to new ways of thinking. That's amazing.
Yeah, that brain muscle memory, the movement, tactile movement
Mhm.
into the hand that goes into and all the way up into the brain and the memory, and also the visual connection with what you're doing on the page creates all those different neuron connections. So that it makes them, they think deeper. There's more there's more processing going on, and that's exciting when you see those little fires go on in their brains. It's very exciting. You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. And next time we're going to be doing a little bit deeper dive into the wisdom cards. How does that sound?
Sounds exciting. I look forward
Wonderful.
to it.
Okay, thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, and bye for now.
Bye bye.